when we applied for primary schools for my son, he didn't get any of his 6 choices. I don't know if this is the same sort of system up and down the country, but basically we live in North London and we had to write down 6 choices in order of preference, and we didn't get any of them. We were offered a school that I think was going to mean about 4 hours of travel a day on public transport, because I would not have sat in that traffic. So public transport in the bus lane would have been the best option. But it wasn't going to be the right one. Also, it was a religious school that they offered, and that wasn't our preference. And I am sharing this today, firstly, to give you some support and maybe some tools of how to navigate it. And secondly, when this happened to us, nobody else was in the same situation. And also the people that we spoke to had no words of wisdom either, really, because they had not known this to be the case. And so the first thing I want to say is, well, we were in lockdown. We were in lockdown when we received this information. And so I felt lucky, first and foremost, because we didn't have to sort of say to our child, he wasn't going into nursery, so people weren't talking about it. So that was a big relief. But that first day when we were at home and we were anticipating it and it finally came through, it was a shock. And our immediate reaction was to be really emotional and take it personally. And once we had sort of settled with it, we realized that we couldn't take it personally. Being really emotional about it was not going to help our cause. And we knew that we had to, instead of just staying still and being upset and personal and why has this happened to us and sort of taking the victim mentality, we had to get really practical. And so if today you haven't got your choice, don't take it personally, because the whole process is not personal. They say to write in that paragraph of like, why you want to go to that school, but I actually don't think it's personal. It's to do with how close you live to the school. So the second thing I want to say, and this is when we lead into the comparisons with business as well. You may not get what you want straight away, but that's not to say you are not going to get it. And I think that in business especially, sometimes we can receive our first rejection, or we do our first launch and it doesn't go well. And suddenly we build up this story of like, well, then that's it. No more. We've used all of our chips. And I knew that this was going to be a process. I also know, and this may surprise you, and when people said this to me, I was like, are you serious? Really? Are you serious? So many people's life changes between now and September. And I was thinking, really? Like a third of the class are going to move out of London between now and September. And yet things happened, things shifted about, people's lives changed. And maybe that was more because it was 2020, but things really began to change and it continued to. So my son is now in year 4, and I would say maybe half of the class have remained the same 15 throughout. And then there's been other kind of comings and goings of the other 15 places of the class. But realizing you're not going to get what you want straight away puts you into action of a choice, puts you in a situation where you go, okay, so I can assume that I'm not going to get what I want and just park it and leave it, or I can be open to exploring another way. Number 3, we had to go back to what we said we wanted. And this is similar in business as well. You know, say you do a launch and it doesn't work out, and everything in you wants to burn down the whole business and be like, no, I don't want to do it. And actually you need to go back to your goals. What did you say that you wanted for your life and your business? And then you have to find another way, maybe a different way, maybe a similar way to go again. And so when we came back to this decision, we really had to say, we could take that option. We could, and we could commit to traveling 4 hours a day, but we don't want to. And what we want is a local school. What we would love is the school, one of the top two that we chose, or even 3 or 4. They were all sort of fairly local to us. And so really grounding in that situation of being able to almost reconnect with the vision, that was so, so key, because the vision, in order to come to life, was going to need energy. It was going to need admin. It was going to need phone calls and emails and conversations and patience and back and forth. It was going to need things from us. And so we had to know why we were doing it. Number 4, seek help. It's likely that there are people who know more than you. So I was really lucky with somebody from the local council. She was very transparent in the way that she spoke. She talked about what the next process was. And so if this is the case in your business as well, it's time to maybe ask some bigger questions so you get some bigger answers. And the temptation is to go small and to tuck in and to not expand and just dig your heels in and go, right, I'll do this by myself. And actually, most of us need help. Most of us have the accessibility to people who can help and support us. So open yourself up. And once again, we can tell these stories. You know, I could have made this big story about the council and they didn't give us any of our school and having all of that sort of stuff. That was not going to help me, because going back to point number 3, my aim was to get my child into the school, our child into the school. That was the end goal. And so I had to play a game, and I had to stay on the straight and narrow. And, you know, not end up in the Daily Mail chaining myself topless to the council offices. That would have not got anybody anywhere. I mean, it might have got some clicks, but, you know, we'll see. Anyway, number 5, you have to notice the steps and really feel them and let them sink in and trust the process. So it was almost like a game of stick and twist. So it was better for us to accept the place. So I guess the 7th choice, but it wouldn't have been our 7th choice. There would have been others. But the choice that we were given, they were working on the basis that it's better to have a school place than not. So we stuck. But we were very open to twisting, to going again. And what would happen is you would accept the place. And then if you wanted to remain on the waiting list, this is how it worked 5 years ago in our local borough, the council would then call you and they would tell you what place that you had. And so we accepted, I think, 4 places or 3 places before we made the move. So we accepted our equivalent of our 7th place, and then we got our 6th. And then, so we were like, okay, we got the 6th. That's a little bit, that's only going to be 3 hours of traveling every day. Okay, we can maybe do that, but it's still not the one. And then we got our 5th place. And then we jumped to our 3rd place. And then very quickly, after the 3rd place came through, I got one of those calls. And it felt like you were on a bit of a game show. I can't remember the woman from the council, but she was like, hi, can you talk? I was like, I can talk. What have you got? What news? And she said, hang on. I'm about to make the offers, but I just wanted to check. Are you happy with your 3rd choice, or do you want the 2nd one? It's like, I want the 2nd one. And we always knew that actually the 1st choice that we wanted to have was really pushing our luck. And then now we've moved. We're still very much in the catchment area and the local area. Now we've moved. The 1st choice in the end would have been a bit more of a pain, and it would have involved probably a bus and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm really pleased. And also the 2nd choice was my number 1. So it just was that case of waiting and doing the right things and just following the plan and having that trust. And then what happened is, as I said, so many other children have joined the school since. There has always been movement. People's life changes. So whatever the situation, however much you're like, okay, that's it, I've got no choice and I'm now dealt with this set of cards, for most of the time, that is not the case. Anyway, if you've got questions, let me know. If that's resonated and you're having that day to day of like, right, this is not what we planned for. I hope you have supportive people around you. I hope this video has helped. Equally, if you're in that place with your business where maybe you've come out the other side of something and be like, I thought that this would go very differently, book a session with me. I would love to help and support you. Fast forward to 2025, by the way. My son is now in year 4. My daughter is in year 1 at that school. We are so happy with it. It's such a lovely community. They're thriving. They want to go, mainly, apart from like if they really want to watch something on telly. But it's been a brilliant decision, and I'm so glad that we waited and that we kept the faith, and it all worked out in the end, even though it was stressful. Lots of love. See you next time. Bye.